Right, hi there, everybody.
Hello.
Again. Welcome to Neurodivergent Nook. This is episode 3. I'm Helen Neale. I'm a therapist, an autistic ADHD as well. So I have lived experience and professional experience. I work with autistic adults and children, and neurodivergent people as well. And this is Diane. She's here with me today too, as always. So over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diane. I am a previous teacher, Senko head teacher, and I now do consultancy in schools, education settings, supporting predominantly around SEND and offering training. I'm also have autism and ADHD, and I'm a parent and a foster carer as well.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about one of the senses which I kind of feel is really misunderstood and perhaps not talked about as much as it really needs to be within neurodivergent circles, and that's interoception. I notice I said that very slowly.
Well said.
I struggle to say the word, which is ironic.
And I can't say it at all. I'm just going to say something that sounds like it if I
Yeah, we'll do our best. Be patient and kind.
I can read it.
It's just saying it. So how about maybe giving people that don't really know what it is, because I'm sure there'll be some people that don't.
Sure.
What is interoception?
Yeah, so it's rife amongst us neurodivergent people, and it's not having that understanding or awareness or kind of that feedback in your body if you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you need to go for a wee or you need to go for a poo, and just kind of if you're tired, and just not kind of picking up on those signals with all our kind of mismatchy nervous system, that those things are that your body's being told that stuff. It is also really kind of prevalent in children, young people that have had trauma. So I see that a lot. I see that with all of my foster children, that they, their body is in so much survival, fight or freeze mode all of the time, even when they seem really happy, that, there's not a chance in hell that they're going to remember that if they need a drink of water or to go for a wee, and I, regardless of the kind of their age, even my teenage foster boys that I have quite a few of, you're still telling them you need to have a drink of water with that, or, you've just come inside from playing football. But it's not a case of just not being bothered like lots of teenagers or children might be. They're just not, they're red, they're hot, they're sweating, and there's not one bit of their body, their brain sends that message saying you need a drink of water. And that's quite important, isn't it, to be able to know when to eat or drink? And those key things around that in terms of, functioning just day to day or being able to learn at school.
Yeah. And I think that there's a couple of things to add to that. It's also around pain and emotion.
Yes,
that's part of interoception, which obviously I'm a therapist. I work with emotions too. And actually, I think it's sometimes that it's there, but it's not until it's really huge that we might notice it, or we don't notice it at all. So the thirst needs to be really, that sense of thirst needs to be really strong, and then we go, oh, I'm thirsty. But actually that's probably very, very late, and maybe you've got irritable and you're wondering why you feel a little bit weird, and you can't focus on things, and then suddenly your partner might point out to you that you haven't actually drunk all day and it's 8 o'clock in the evening, and you're like, oh and
then it dawns on you, doesn't it?
Suddenly, and actually a prime example of that is I went to the doctor, and they needed to look at my throat, and they said, oh, your tongue's very dry. Do you need to drink? I'm like, maybe.
Rushing you off to it.
Hadn't thought about that.
Wow.
And that's because I'd not drunk anything. And it wasn't something that came to my mind.
Yeah. And I think, if you chuck something like that in, with neurodivergence, you can catastrophize then, don't you? That something really awful is going on. If, like you said, like you haven't eaten and you're really dizzy and kind of, your sugar levels are dipping, But actually, all you need to do is have a banana and you'll probably feel all right.
Have a banana, have a drink, and actually take care of your basic needs.
Completely. And, having, when I was in headship and always not making the time to sit down and have lunch, not making the time to have 10 minutes in between maybe meetings or a couple of meetings to go to the loo or, fill up my water bottle. I would cram every single thing into that day and not even consider that those things needed to be factored in. And then wonder why, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had absolutely lost all energy, all happiness. Yeah, now that I work a lot from home, I'm very lucky. My husband will say, I'm making lunch. Would you like me to make some for you? And he eats very healthily. So I can feel good in the daytime now.
Yeah.
But, rely on that myself as an individual. And I think I would have been dead and buried a long time ago.
Absolutely. and as actually thinking about you talking about that and saying you lost all happiness, the other thing is throwing something like alexithymia into the mix, where you struggle to name your emotions, to understand that emotional state you're in, and you just feel off. There's something not quite right, and you're not quite sure what it is, because it's difficult to name it. And then you sort of put two and two together and you think, oh, well, maybe it's just because I've not eaten drunk. But then it becomes quite difficult, because that understanding of the internal world around alexithymia is part of the interoception difference, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And I again, you made me thinking about, foster children and young people that I look after that, really struggle to kind of name and identify, those feelings. That's really, really hard for them. And especially when they haven't even got necessarily sometimes the vocabulary from having, been in a safe, nurturing environment or, kind of good parenting to even question what those feelings might be,
And it becomes quite difficult. And, we can, as therapists, one of the things that we do is work through individual somatic responses, which is that individual body response. But it's actually really hard for a neurodivergent person to do that, to turn that focus internally and say, well, where are you feeling that? Actually, I don't know. And that's a perfectly legitimate response. So how are you feeling? A lot of people, when they get the I don't know, they might think that's defiance or denial. And actually, they don't know.
They don't know.
And that's really important to understand.
Yeah. And I think, can you tell me more about the pain part of it from your work with children and adults?
Yeah, of course. So what I'm meaning here is that everybody experiences pain in a very different way. And the feedback that we get from that can be very, very different. So someone might not realise that they're in pain until it hits really hard. Or they might be able to tolerate that pain in a very, very different way, and it not become the all-consuming, all-singing, dancing experience that some people do have.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. And I certainly can think about that with my foster children, that some experience what might seem kind of ridiculous response or reaction to a scratch, but actually for them it's really genuine and it's really real, and how you then respond to that is how regulated or more dysregulated they come, isn't it? I mean, you made me laugh there talking about the word pain and not necessarily noticing it. When I was having my third child, the day I went into labour, I was also picking up another child from school, so I had to pick up, so I had my toddler, heavily pregnant, had to pick up a child in year 1 and then a child in year 2, and started having contractions when I was walking up to the school. Didn't really think anything of it really, but third time mum, I know what I'm doing. Waited at the school gates and it was really getting quite strong. Came back, cooked 3 children dinner, made packed lunches for tomorrow, thinking okay, maybe went over on the yoga ball a couple of times just to try and chill myself out. And a couple of hours later, I went to the hospital, obviously as you do, and I was 7 centimetres dilated.
Oh my
I know, and I've been looking after 3 children quite happily and cooking dinner and doing all the other stuff that you do as a parent. So certainly was not aware.
It's not registered.
No registration going on, no registration, and no self-care thinking about myself and not those 3 children. I don't know if you've ever had anything pain-wise.
That has actually resonate a little bit with me. You must please don't judge. So I went to see a friend, 39 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
And on the way there, I got sort of hit up the back in the car. I was driving there, got hit up the back. Poor lad that got out, white as a sheet when he realised I was heavily pregnant. We did manage to sort it all out.
Right.
But I then went on to lunch, and I think maybe because of the jolt, it might have started something, because I started having labour pains while I was eating my lunch with my friend, and I thought, oh, hold on a minute, I really need to do something about this. Can't really, poor woman doesn't want me to give birth there on the table. So I thought, well, I'll just, I'll drive home. Sensible thing to do. Thank God this was 20 years ago.
It's also practical because you need to get home, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I phoned my other half and said, you might want to come home from work. He's in London, and I'm quite a way away because of the commute he had. So I thought I got back. We sorted things out. He arrived and we drove on, and I'm still, I'm experiencing pain clearly. But I'd driven a car. We got there, and they were saying to me, "Well, what's it like? What's the pain?" And I'm like, "I don't know, 6."
No idea.
Really didn't know. Didn't know how to express it, and I was 8 centimetres dilated. So I was like, okay. And actually, this is something I'd forgotten until just saying it now. On the way there, they said, "Do you really need to come in?" Based on what you were saying.
Yes, I crowning.
Definitely do need to come in. And it was like, really, and that's just that different experience.
It is, and I'm sure there's some listeners here probably thinking about those that have had home births, or women that choose not to have their children in the hospital, or can't, that that kind of go through that maybe calmly or in a different planned way at home. But when you're not planning that and you are planning to go. Be organised to go to hospital. It's a bit of a surprise, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
And we, neither of us that were autistic, ADHD, didn't realise at the time.
No, I didn't.
Just didn't know that we had different pain experiences, and none of the doctors around us did either.
Yeah. And I think that's, and that's the key bit, isn't it? That, do those in the medical profession understand that there might be some mums in labour or whatever, whatever your needs are, that have difficulties with their senses and are genuinely not feeling that pain, or making sure you have that x-ray just in case that bone really is broken, or is that headache just a headache, because we get in a muddle with that a lot of the time.
We do,
don't we?
Absolutely do. And I think, I don't know whether it would be really helpful maybe as an educator to give maybe some thoughts and ideas about how we can support that within a school environment. And I think the 2 key things for me, and also kind of my bugbears really, are not when children and young people don't have access to using the toilet when they need to, and when they need a drink of water. And in primary schools, they've all got their tray, haven't they, on the middle of the shared tables, and they can get their water bottle just behind them. But if you put that in a secondary school, then more often than not that pupil is expected to wait till break time. But if they haven't had a drink at break time, they haven't had a drink this morning because they forgot before they left, they potentially haven't had a drink since yesterday, and that happens. That's the reality. And we're talking about pupils then how are they going to learn if they're not even hydrated? And if you're talking about children, young people that aren't aware that they need to go to the loo, and then suddenly they are bursting to go to the toilet,
what are we doing here? Are we waiting for a 15-year-old to wet themselves and be completely publicly humiliated?
And the embarrassment factor it plays hugely into that neurodivergence, doesn't it?
So much.
And girls with periods as well. That's the same. That's interoception.
Totally.
Knowing when you need to change. All of that kind of stuff. And actually that feeling when you are menstruating can be really dysregulating.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, I know so many girls in that, in that place that end up being off school all week, because of all of that, all of that stuff you just said, and they just don't want that additional sensory overload of, being on their periods, and also at the risk that they might not be able to, go to the loo in the middle of a lesson if they need to. I mean, I know certainly plenty of teenage girls that if they need a wee, just say to the teacher, I'm on my period, so that they can be allowed to go for a wee.
That's not right.
And that's not okay. What job, unless obviously you're, doing surgery on somebody, what job do we not just pop out for a wee?
Yeah.
What job do we not just pick up our water bottle or, a bottle that's next to us?
Yeah.
And yet we're training these children and young people to conform to things that just deny their basic needs,
Absolutely. And just all genders. It's all about trying to ensure that we understand that, just as they might not know and they might not understand due to alexithymia and the emotions, they might not be able to name the emotion that they're experiencing. They might also not be able to realise until the last minute that they need the loo, so they're not being defiant. That's just the way that their body operates.
And and of course, the reality is we can't have, classes and hundreds of children walking around corridors in schools. We know that. But at the same time, you're going to be making for, a child or young person making a lot more progress academically if they have been for a wee, and if they have got their, had some lunch and they have had a drink of water. We all function better as human beings in the day or at work, don't we? Or as a parent or whatever our role is in life, if we've done those things.
Totally.
And that's the bit that worries me, that there is so much pressure in schools and colleges now to get X, Y, and Z done in a day, and to follow and get all the lessons done and get all the curriculum met, that actually we're forgetting to just kind of think of those basic things, really. And if you add on the stress of a teacher or a teaching assistant to that, have they got the time to, to they think, oh, actually, maybe this child does need to pop to the loo. They've got autism, they've got ADHD or whatever it might be, and actually they're probably not aware of that feeling because I know that child. Just the basics.
So it's maybe putting in that break to before thinking, this is a defiant moment. It's actually thinking, well, let's be curious, like we often say, about that particular child, and see whether might be something else going on.
Completely. And it's just goes back to having a bit of empathy, doesn't it? Why is that child not concentrating? Maybe they need a drink. Maybe they didn't have an apple at break time and they just need a few mouthfuls of a piece of fruit. Certainly work with lots of young children where part of their sensory diet in the school day, whether it might be on the trampoline for their proprioception or, on the swing for their vestibular needs, is actually having a couple of slices of fruit, a slice of the apple or a couple of slices of banana at 10 o'clock, just so you can kind of pick them up again, and meet those sensory needs. And that's not rocket science, is it really,
Absolutely not. Okay, I think, we've probably covered quite a bit about interoception. I'm sure there are many more questions, but you can always ask us on social media. Find us on there as Neurodivergent Nook.
Please do ask questions.
We'd love to hear from everybody. So we look forward to seeing you and speaking next time.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.